Sorry, I had to re-record this because I couldn't export the whole file. So this is what if Deku. So this is what if Deku was an Esper, like a Mob Psycho one. The what if thoughts are the same way as all what ifs do, with Deku being born. In this version, he's born with blonde hair. He looks a lot like Teru from Mob Psycho. You know, the one handsome motherfucker. But still, I plan on Deku developing techniques like Teru and not just sticking to telekinesis like Mob did. But Deku still does have the absorption and distribution of energy thing that Mob does. Anyway, Deku is born and he's just the perfect baby. When he gets home with Inko, he's very giggly and bubbly. He makes Inko happy all the time, and he just knows he's gonna be great one day. When Deku goes to Kindi, he makes close friends with Bakugo, both of them being confident and people. But Deku's more of a people person than Bakugo. You know, he's very upbeat. And the class loves him. So one day, a year after Bakugo's clock would have awakened, Deku would be walking with Bakugo and his friends, and Bakugo would be leading the march as Deku and his friends would be walking through the forest, forward marching, here we go, welcome to the agency, Bakugo. Bakugo would laugh as he would walk across a log. He'd walk across it carelessly as he would fall off. Deku seeing this would have his quirk awaken instinctively as he'd grab Bakugo, but not with his hand. He would have grabbed him telekinetically. Bakugo would be like, huh? I'm flying? When did I do that? Deku would be like, I'm making Bakugo fly, he would say, as he would notice a yellow telekinetic aura around him. His hand, he'd look at his hands after gently letting Bakugo down. They were emitting a yellow energy from them. But Deku and his friends would spend the whole day messing around with his quirk. He would be making him and Bakugo fly around. He would fight with Bakugo a bit. He would mess around with that long hand can make his fingers bend in weird ways. A long finger can make his fingers bend in weird ways. He would just be having the time of his life. Afterwards, Deku would go home and show Inko. Inko would be ecstatic, realizing Deku had a quirk similar to hers. It was even better than hers. He could move anything, any which way. The next day, they'd go to the goat, Dr. Latrell, from my goat Puffin, my favorite what if. That's not the point. Dr. Latrell would analyze Deku's quirk, touching his shoulder and looking at his left eye. His quirk is very peculiar. Mr. Midoriya, you said your quirk was telekinesis? Yes it is. Well, your son seems to have inherited a version of that. Your son has inherited psychokinesis. His body has a psychic energy within it that he manipulates in order to move people around. However, this doesn't seem to be the only way he can manipulate him. He can manipulate his energy. It seems he can develop his energy manipulation into new and broader techniques. Deku would look at this new development and be shocked. He didn't just have one move. He didn't just have telekinesis. He had any quirk he could develop. Any quirk he had the hard work. Any quirk he had the hard work to work for. Deku in the next 10 years would spend his time being best friends with Bakugo, training, having fun. Deku would be a bit more popular than Bakugo due to his bright personality. Over this time, Deku would develop a slight cocky edge. You know, he'd talk to girls. He'd be having fun. He'd be doing whatever he wants. On the day of the flood incident, when the teacher would do the same thing. I know you wouldn't be heroes. Deku in this time wouldn't go crazy. Bakugo wouldn't have his long speech calling down high class extras. The teacher would look down at the sheet again. Midoriya, Bakugo, seems you both want to go to UA. Interesting. I feel like you both have the marks for it. Yeah, you can do it. The class would be like, yeah, of course those two can do it. Yeah, they're the GOAT. They're greatest of all time. Of course they're gonna do it. Bakugo would smack, having his ego inflated. A Deku would sigh. Don't think, Sparky, you're not gonna be greater than me, so don't even think about it. They'd banter lightly. Yeah, sure, dickhead. I'm gonna be better than you, arsehole. Deku would walk home, blowing off hanging out with Bakugo. Sorry, I gotta go to my mom's birthday. Deku would fly off, using his quirk using his quirk to move quickly. He'd be running through you before he'd running under a tunnel before he'd hear a manhole cover rattling. He'd turn around, just he'd get an anxious feeling, as if he knew something was gonna happen. What's going on? The manhole cover would burst as he see the sludge villain coming up. Without even thinking, Deku would make a barrier around it, trapping it before he set everything in the barrier ablaze. During the 10 years of training between him and locking his quirk, Deku would have unlocked 2 new moves: telekinetic explosion and pyrokinesis. From having hung out with Bakugo so much, he would have reverse engineered 2 explosive and fire moves basically. Sorry if I have a really bad list. I have a bad list normally, and I have my retainer in right now. But anyway, Deku would have the slug villain encased in the flaming cage. Okay, hey Goopy, check out my new move. This is my Hell Domain. Deku would be smiling as he choked the sludge villain. The sludge villain like, "Get me out here, kid. I'm gonna use you as a skin suit so I can get away from that freak." The sludge villain would say, as Deku would slowly start running out of energy from using 2 techniques at once. All Might would jump out the manhole cover. Ha ha ha! I am here. Side note, by the way, how did All Might fit his big brawling ass in that manhole cover? But ain't no way he was chasing the sludge villain down the small might form as well. We saw him transform, so what the fuck was he doing? Anyway, All Might would jump in, asking that he'd be about to hit a Texas smack before he'd see the sludge villain almost having been dealt with. The sludge villain would pass out with humility inside the hell cage, as All Might would be like, "Kid, can you please drop the cage? Hey, you might do a bit more damage to him." Deku would be like, "Sorry, All Might." Deku would drop the cage. Deku would drop the barrier, as the All Might would gather the sludge villain. "Kid, you're very talented, and I can tell. What's your quirk?" Deku's eyes would light up. He had the chance to brag to a symbol of peace. Deku would keep his cool, not fanboying like in canon. He'd be like, "Yeah, my quirk isn't that crazy. It's psychokinesis, you know." All Might be stunned hearing Deku's quirk. I'm not going to give Deku 1-4, by the way. That's reserved for Mirio. But still, All Might's like, "Wow, your quirk is incredible. I hope to see you at UA soon." Deku would be a little confused by this. "Huh? What do you mean see me soon at UA?" All Might would be like, "Shit," as he would jump away. Deku would be about to fly after him before he checked his Rolex. Oh shit! I'm about to be late. He'd fly home just in time for his mum's birthday. He'd deliver her a cake, a kiss, and he'd give her a nice little ring that he said was from his dad. Lies, by the way. Deku's father is a deadbeat. Deku and Bakugo were training together, developing more moves. They were working more on finesse since they already had power. Deku would be working on different ways to use his telekinetic explosion and his pyrokinesis, as Bakugo would be developing new moves with the explosions, coming up with his explosive speed, turbo, and AP shot, and he would make a proto version of how was the impact. I don't know why I gave him AP shot and not house impact. Actually, yeah, fuck it. Bakugo has house impact. Has full house impact, but not gonna be that important yet. Deku on the day the exam comes in confident. He walks up. He doesn't trip. He aces the theory part of the exam. I straight 100%. And in the practical lecture hall, he doesn't argue with either because he's not a mumbler in this timeline. Right? But when it's time for him to go to his exam site, he still walks up to Uraraka. Ida doesn't go after him this time since Deku wasn't mumbling during the exam hall, and Deku comforts Uraraka talking, "Oh, it's fine, you don't need to worry. Even if you get hurt in the chest, I'm sure the teacher or some of the exam takers will save you. We're all heroes. We're all trying to be hero students after all." Uraraka would have her nerves steeled after this and be ready to go. The moment President Mike would be like, "Go, go, go! There's no captain in a real battle." Deku would fly in, dealing with 1, 2, and 3 pointers. He'd be burning them, blowing their heads off, just crushing them. He'd turn a big pile of 3 pointers into one of them cubes from Wally. He'd use telekinesis and hard strat, and used to punch through them, just just doing shit. Deku be trying new shit out at every point during the exam time, using out new moves he didn't even think he could, using new moves he didn't think he could do, just trying stuff he never tried. Alright, the teacher's looking at this to be shocked. Oh my god, I thought the kid's quirk was telekinesis. Then they'd be like, do you know this kid? And he'd be like, yeah, I saw my villain incident 10 months ago. Deku would be shredding through robots. I'm saying this time he gets 54 points, so exactly 20 less than what 19 less than what Bakugo got in canon. 54 points. When the 0 pointer gets called out, Deku's about to dip. He doesn't think it's efficient. He just tries to go after more points. When he sees Uraraka needing help, he's like, someone else is gonna save her. But then he's like, I said some hero student's gonna save her, didn't I? He jump up at he fly up at a 0 pointer before charging up a big hand, a big blast in his hand. Telekinetic explosion. He blasts the 0 pointer's head clean off, using all his energy as he start falling down. Shit. Uraraka would slap Deku to save his life as he'd float down. And he'd wake up in Recovery Girl's infirmary. Recovery Girl couldn't use her quirk on him because he only really ran out of energy. Anyway, after this, I'ma say Deku goes home, not even bothering to talk to Recovery Girl. He grabbed the lolly from her little bowl on the way out. And he walks home. He already knows he did good in the theory exam, but the practical exam he's a bit iffy on. He did get 54 points, but he wasn't counting, and he's naturally anxious anyway. So when Deku gets his hollow disc back from Yue, he's a little nervous. He opened it just to see that he beat Bakugo's points by one mark. Deku won by a 1 mark, and he's like, oh, Bakugo's gonna be so pissed. Deku would say as he had nothing to do. It'll be Bakugo already trying to run the fade with Deku. The next week when they're both at UA, Deku would open the door. Deku and Bakugo would open the door and see Ida. Bakugo would go put his feet on the table, but Ida wouldn't argue with him in this timeline, talking to Deku. You sort of the part of the exam that I couldn't. You're clearly a better student than I. Deku would be trying to wave it off, trying to be humble, being like, no, I know I'm great, but I'm not that good of a student. I didn't even know it. I just wanted to save that girl. As you'd say this, Uraraka would walk in. It's you, Blondie, the psychic one. Oh, well, thank you for saving me during the exam. She'd be talking with Deku. She'd be talking with Deku as a Zawad job. This is no place for socializing. If you want to make friends, you shouldn't be here. You should go to a general course. Huh? Put this on and meet me outside. As I would throw Deku a PE uniform which would catch with telekinesis. I'm saying this timeline Deku's kind of scrawny, so he's not very noticed in the changing room. After all, he doesn't need to be big, he just kind of needs to be agile when he uses his quirk. Anyway, Aizawa throws Deku the ball when they're doing the ball throw, and Deku sees it as an opportunity to try out his pyrokinesis. He throws the ball while releasing a big wave of flame, getting the same score as he does in canon. Todoroki seeing this would be the fire quirk. Like the entire class would be thinking, oh, Deku's just got a fire quirk. Uraraka saw the explosions in the entrance exam, so he just thinks of a different application of this fire. But anyway, during the quirk apprehension test, people will start noticing. Ain't no way this kid just has a fire quirk. Deku would fly to the end of the 50-meter dash. He'd propel himself up. He'd telekinetically propel himself up during the long jump. He'd grip the grip stick machine with his mind. And the punching machine, he would just make an explosion just like Bakugo did. I'ma say overall Deku gets second place. He's not that physically strong. His quirk can be used to substitute physical. Activities, so he's chilling. But I don't think he can do better than Momo. I just don't think he can. Anyway, after the exam, Aizawa reveals the rules, smiling. It was just a logical deception to get you guys to try harder. Because Kakasa's face palm at this and walk. Kakasa's face palm at this and walk to orientation. After orientation, they'll be having lunch, and Deku will be sitting with Bakugo, Uraraka, Ida, Mina, Thero, Kaminari, and Kirishima. Wait, did I mention Mina? I think I did, but still. Deku will be sitting in that big ass friend group, just having fun. They'll be talking, bantering and stuff. Before then, and they realize their next, and they just start scratching their necks like fiends when they realize what their next class is. Hero Studies 101. The entire class would be waiting in anticipation for All Might, straight pissing themselves. I was like an excited dog. Before All Might walked in, I am here, coming through the door like a normal person. All Might would be yelling at the class in excitement. Okay, everyone, put these on, booyah! As he clicked a button, making the hero costume come out the wall. Deku would grab his hero costume. Honestly, I don't really know what Deku's hero costume is gonna be, but I'm just gonna say it's a suit. Like, he has like a 3-piece suit, suit jacket, waistcoat, dress shirt, with the dress trousers as well, and a nice red tie. The tie is only support gear, by the way. I'm gonna show you why later. I'm gonna say the matchup is the same as in canon. Deku walking up. Bakugo's gonna act the same as he did in canon, but he's not as rude to Ida. He just wants to do it to fight Deku, and Deku would send Uraraka up, knowing Bakugo's gonna come after him after having known him for 10 years. Deku sees Bakugo in the hallway, and they immediately start boxing. Deku will be using telekinesis to enhance his strength, going for quick jabs, using barriers to block Bakugo's explosions. I'm gonna say Deku's a very adaptive martial artist in this timeline. He doesn't have any specific training. He's just very naturally gifted. Bakugo tried palm Deku with an explosion, but Deku divert his palm away before going in with his own palm strike. Telekinetic explosion. He tried to blast Bakugo away, but Bakugo would tank that shit. His body having grown used to it, or having grown extra used to explosions in the timeline due to his own and Deku's. Bakugo's basically a tank. Deku would be like, shit, I can only beat him with telekinesis. Deku would go in, using a telekinetic wave to throw Bakugo into a wall before flying in at him again, going in for an elbow drop. Bakugo would read this before making a funnel with his fingers and putting one finger through. AP shot! Deku would see a massive AP shot barreling towards him as he would duck underneath it, a hole being where it would have hit. You almost killed me! But it didn't hit. Deku would face palm at his best friend's stupidity. What the fuck is wrong with you? He'd fly in trying to hit Bakugo with another punch as Bakugo would dodge. I'm not going anywhere like this. He'd be about to pull the pin in the explosion, and Deku would be like, yeah, come on, do it, bitch boy. Hey, really getting Bakugo to do it. Bakugo would be like, alright, pretty boy, bet! He pulled the pin, making the explosion go up Deku. Where Deku would be like, fell for it, stupid. He divert the explosion upwards like he does in canon, setting up the same thing for Uraraka to start playing some fucking wiffle ball with Ida. Bang. He would hit Ida with a bunch of shrapnel before going on and hugging the bomb like a koala. Safe, Uraraka would say as she would hug onto the bomb. Momo would call him back into the room as Momo would analyze their match. Bakugo and Midoriya are both too focused on each other, and Uraraka couldn't keep her composure around Ida's brilliant act, so I'd say Ida is the MVP of this, but Midoriya is a close second. All Might would be like, ha ha ha, couldn't have said it myself, young Yajirozu, he would say, as he'd move on to the next match and the next match. Deku would explain his quirk to his classmates, how he has energy, but he can develop into different techniques, having used all his techniques in that match, all his different moves in that match against Bakugo, pyrokinesis, telekinetic explosion, and telekinesis. Todoroki was slightly softened up with Deku after hearing this, knowing he doesn't have a fire quirk and that he's just mimicking one. A couple of weeks of regular school would go by before the class would file into the bus for the USJ. In this timeline, I'm gonna say Deku is tied strongest with Bakugo and Todoroki. He has objectively the most versatility in the class, so they're saying he has the potential to be the strongest as well. Deku would have a terrible feeling going down his spine as they would approach the USJ. He sees flashes of suffering going through his head. Sue and Mineta in the water zone, Kaminari, Jiro, and Momo in the mountain zone. Bakugo and Kirishima getting jumped in that one building. Todoroki by himself. Ojiro having to hit on non-villains. Deku would see flashes of this, thinking it was just anxiety as he'd walk into the USJ. The feeling would get worse and worse as Fighting would do her lane speech. Deku wouldn't even be listening as he'd notice a fog forming in the center. He'd tap Aizawa on the shoulder before thinking, Aizawa, look! Aizawa looked down, seeing the villains as Kurogiri would start introducing themselves. Aizawa wouldn't even let them finish that shit as he would start boxing order for the villains, smacking them against each other, hitting them with straight combos. He'd spin and back kick one across the head as they would keep going on. Kurogiri noticing this would be like, where is the symbol of peace? Where is he? Shigaraki would start checking and say, yeah, where is he? Where is All Might? Shigaraki would say, hey, straight tweaking. Aizawa wouldn't even listen as Kurogiri would be like, fine, I guess I'll draw him out by killing these children. He'd teleport the kids away. I'ma say in this timeline, Deku doesn't get teleported to the water zone. He gets teleported to this to a small cliffside by the mountain zone by himself. It's in between the mountain and water zone. Deku would be like, what's up with you? Deku would be surrounded by villains about to get jumped. He would deal with all the small fry villains before getting one, holding him captive with telekinesis, dunking him in water repetitively to get answers. Who do you work for? The villain would shiver, having been dunked in water. The guy with the hand, the guy with the blue hair in the hand, please stop. How do you guys plan on killing All Might? The bad villain, he's a bio-engineered freak. He's supposed to be strong enough to kill All Might. After hearing this, Deku would knock that villain out before flying to the center of the USJ, barely stopping Aizawa from getting his shit rocked by stopping the Nomu's foot with a force field. Just in time, Deku would say, his agitation growing. A meter going up 50%. 50%. Deku would fight the Nomu. He's barely a match for it. He'd throw an explosion, but the Nomu would tank it. He'd try kick, but the Nomu wouldn't even flinch. It was solely focused on Aizawa. Deku would grip it with his telekinesis, looking like that one bum who was trying to stop Monkey. Deku's hand would start bleeding as his nails would dig into his palm. Stop trying to hurt my teacher! Deku's rage would explode. His first 100% explosion. Anger. Deku would go in, trying to fight. Deku would go in, stopping the Nomu barely from killing Aizawa. He'd cut his head off before blowing his body apart. He'd be looking at Shigaraki, the one commanding the Nomu. It's you, wasn't it? It was you. You're the one commanding him to kill my friend. What do you want? Deku would telekinetically grip Shigaraki by the shirt as he'd approach him. Shigaraki would be like, look behind you. Deku would get rocked by the Nomu, barely being able to cushion his impact by catching himself with telekinesis. He'd fight the Nomu more evenly this time, not even noticing the psychokinetic energy leaking off him. He'd hit the Nomu with an uppercut before kicking him and cutting his arms off. Before he put his palm to the Nomu's face. Pyrokinesis. He'd blow the Nomu's head clean off, destroying his brain. Deku would be huffing and puffing. He'd use too much energy. He'd be about to pass out. Before he'd be caught. I am here, All Might would say, catching Deku as he revived with the rest of the UA staff, either leading the charge. The sniper would shoot Shigaraki 6 times as Kurogiri would barely manage to let them escape. Shigaraki in the ball would be tweaking, that blonde kid, I hate him, he would say. All for one would be looking in from his monitor being like, yes, that's the hatred, Tomura. All for one seeing Shigaraki's hatred being so much already would order the doctor to put Shigaraki in the surgery right now. Shigaraki will be done by, I'll say, the training camp. Yeah. After the USJ attack, Deku would wake up in the hospital. He'd been out for a couple hours after having used up all his energy, and he would be eating crazy amounts of food. The doctor, I'ma steal this from WCT. We the Celestials a bit. This is an idea I took. This entire what if is kinda inspired by them. They're retired now, so if they want me to take down the video, I guess I'll do it. But still, this part is inspired by them. This quick little tidbit of information: Deku, after using his 100% explosion, will have unclogged psychic pathways in his brain, allowing him to reach more powers. Next time when Deku comes to school, Aizawa announces the UA Sports Festival to him, and Deku and Bakugo are hyped. They decide to train individually and not with each other this time, as Deku would train on 2 new things. He'd think of 2 of his classmates, with elemental abilities, Todoroki and Kaminari. He'd be like, During the training for the sports festival, when Deku isn't at school, he would figure out 2 new abilities, cryokinesis and electrokinesis. On the day of the sports festival, Deku's giving the speech, and I can't lie, Deku just light-skins that shit. He's like, dreamy Laiwati. And all the girls start swooning and shit. You know, because Teru and Mob Psycho, he's a bit of a lazy man. So I'm gonna give Deku that slight attribute, you know. But still, I can't lie, the race is kind of easy for Deku. It's easy as piss. He can fly. Some of say Deku flies through all the obstacles. The cavalry battle is also easy. Because Deku can divert people away, steal their headbands, make barriers. Yeah, Deku got it for the first 2 events. I'm gonna say he's top of the table for both of them. So for the 1v1, it's very anticipated. I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna just say Deku got Shinto's team during the 1v1. During the cavalry battle. Because I don't know how Deku's gonna go through shit. So he doesn't have question mark percent like Mob does. So yeah. Deku's first fight, I'm gonna say, is against Tokoyami. Tokoyami and Deku would shake hands before Midnight would shoot her gun. Deku would immediately start trying to box Tokoyami. Tokoyami would be keeping his distance, having Dark Shadow punch at Izuku from afar. Deku would try to shock Dark Shadow with an electrokinetic blast, but Dark Shadow would be immune. He wasn't made of anything solid. He was made of shadows. Deku couldn't directly attack him. Deku would be like, what makes shadows go away? He would notice something. During Tokoyami's Heroes vs Villain event, he didn't let any light into a room when he was fighting. Light. That has to be his weakness, Deku would say, as he would start making a large pyrokinetic blast. Dark Shadow would hide away as Deku would dissolve the blast. Having turned so small, Deku would hit Tokoyami with a telekinesis enhanced punch, but it wasn't like his normal one. After fighting the normal in the USJ, Deku would develop a new technique, telekinetic helix, greatly enhancing his strength. He'd punch Tokoyami out the ring in 1 hit. Now, I'm gonna say Deku's next round is still Todoroki. Deku before his round really hyping himself, being like, yeah, I can do this. I don't care how strong he is. I can do this. I can go. Yo, when he walk out his room, Deku would still see Endeavor like he does in canon. Endeavor would be like, make sure to use his fire. I saw you use fire and ice during the cavalry battle in the race. You're gifted, just like him. You can. Deku would be a sharp old man. Todoroki isn't you. He can do what he wants with his life. Now, Now, I'm still saying now, even though Todoroki has softened on Deku a bit, knowing that his quirk isn't straight up a fire quirk, he still doesn't like Deku that much. I'm gonna be real. He's still trying to win the ones. So the moment the match starts, Todoroki isn't focused on Todoroki isn't trying to make big ice spikes. He's trying to go for precise, quick attacks to take Deku out immediately. He goes in for an icy punch, making a frosty crater in the ground. And Deku would dodge with another new power he developed since the USJ, precognition. He'd noticed something. He would have noticed something during his training for the sports festival. But there had been 2 incidents before: the sludge villain and the USJ, where he'd been able to predict things that were going to happen. Deku would learn to tap into his power on will, being able to predict his enemy's movements like he is now with Todoroki. He'd be able to weave Todoroki's ice punches and ice spikes, as Todoroki goes for small scale attacks. Small scale attacks on working Todoroki's thing, as he'd make a large wall of ice in front of Deku, trying to lift him up to make easy leverage. He'd make a platform of ice trying to go up, leaving Deku with less space to move as he's in the floor. Deku would make a quick blast of fire to pump fake Todoroki before going in for a telekinetic helix punch, sending Todoroki back down to the ground. He'd go down trying to hit him an elbow drop, but Todoroki would make an ice wall, catching Deku on it. Deku after seeing this would control the ice, crushing it into ice cubes before making a large ball of it, trying to throw it at Todoroki. Todoroki instinctively would start to release a large burst of fire to destroy it. After doing this, Todoroki would be disgusted in himself. Damn it, I didn't want to use her old boss's quirk. Deku would be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" He punched Todoroki in the face. "You and your dad, you both got problems. I get it, but what is wrong with you? It's your quirk, not his." Todoroki would reach the same enlightenment as he did in canon, fighting Deku. He'd hit Deku with a flaming kick real quick before jumping up and crashing down, making an ice spike on landing point. He started putting the pressure on Deku as Deku would be on the defensive, using his precognition to predict his moves and dodge from. Deku would be hitting some weird nation certified moves. He ducks under a punch before punching Todoroki in the stomach for telekinetic helix. They were both almost out of energy and panting. "Man, I can't do this shit," Deku would say, as he would charge off one last blast. Todoroki would be doing the same, using his ice and fire simultaneously. Flash, freeze, heat wave, psionic terror. Deku would shoot a large telekinetic blast at Todoroki, trying to blow him off the map, as Todoroki would do the same move as in canon. Now, I'ma say Deku used up all his energy during this fight, and Todoroki wins by a hair. Like they had to use replay. Todoroki got blasted out the arena by Deku's attack, but Deku was on the ground. They saw that Deku was touched the ground just a second before Todoroki went out of bounds, so Todoroki barely takes the win. I'ma say Bakugo still wins the Sports Fest though, because this version of Bakugo is a bit stronger than he is in canon. I don't think Bakugo was that much weaker than Fire and Ice Todoroki in canon as well. So yeah, Bakugo wins. After the 3-day break for the sports festival, Deku comes back to see his internship offer, and he somehow has the most in the class despite going out in the second round. I'm gonna say, since Deku's quirk is so versatile, everyone wants a piece of that, you know. But I'm gonna say Deku goes with the GOAT Hawks in this timeline for his internship. Since Hawks are kind of like Deku, you know, they're very precise, they're very quick, they're not very flashy about it. Well, Deku is very flashy, but still, you know, they're kind of showboaty. Deku and Hawks have very similar personalities. I'm gonna say in this timeline, Ida does get conked though. Rest in peace. He dies in this fight. He dies in this fight against Sane. So Deku gets sent from his internship 3 days early. Yue has a 3-day break. Well, not a 3-day. I'm gonna say Yue has a 2-week break from after Ida's death, and the final exams are cancelled because of this, and they go straight to training camp. Now, when Deku gets to training camp, and he still gets punched in the balls by Kota. Rest in peace, Deku's future generations. Now, as I told you guys last time, Shigaraki will be out the surgery in this time, so the what if will be ending soon. If you made it this far, comment falafel. Now, Deku in this timeline is going to be training his sheer output like the rest of the class, basically. Deku will start blasting large bursts to use all his energy to blast a large burst of psychic energy into the sky before meditating to gather up all that energy again. Then he blasts another blast of psychic energy into the sky before absorbing the energy from the air again. He keeps doing this for 2 to 3 days straight. Now, on the day of the villain attack, Deku will be about to go for his trust walk before he sees smoke. Before he sees smoke in the air, He'd noticed something. After noticing all the smoke in the air. Wait, where's Kota? He'd be thinking, seeing all his classmates suffer. After he'd be like, where's Kota? He'd get a precognitive vision of Kota getting crushed by Muscular. He'd be like, no, I can't let that happen. Deku on instinct would unlock 2 new abilities. Quark Radar. It's basically like Mob Psychic Radar, except it's like Quark. He basically has Radial, Sarge Quark, and teleportation. Deku on instinct would teleport to Kota's Quark water gun, but he feel another presence there. Muscle augmentation. Deku upon arrival would block a punch from Muscular about to hit Kota using a psychic barrier. What the hell is wrong with you? You're about to kill that kid, Deku would say, looking at Muscular. And Muscular would be like, yeah, of course. Blood is blood. Plus, that kid's parents took my eye. I thought I was going to end that whole bloodline today. By the way, aren't you Midoriya? Shigaraki said to take you alive, but I think I might just kill you. Deku would be looking at Muscular crazy, realizing immediately this man had to go. He started fighting Muscular, his rage having peaked, seeing Kota about to get killed, but it would grow with his fight with Muscular. He'd duck a large punch just to hit him with a telekinetic helix gut. He has to hit him with a telekinetic helix gut check. Muscular would tank that shit, being like, is that what you got? He'd hit Deku with an elbow for trying to stomp him out. I'd kill kids scrawnier than you for fun. Don't think I won't kill you. Deku would put his guard up, trying to block, and Muscular would shatter barrier after barrier. Deku would put up a multi-layer barrier as his rage would increase. Shut up! Deku would explode with psychic energy as he palmed Muscular's face. It's like that one guy in Mob Psycho where Mob palmed the fuck out of him. Muscular would try swinging on Deku, but Deku would have a skin-tight, impenetrable barrier. How would you like it? Deku would say, hey, if someone did you like you did this kid's parents. Deku would drag Muscular through the block before throwing him down. And he started stomping on Muscular's face. Not fun, is it? Not fun. It's not fun. Deku would start stomping on Muscular, about to kill him before he'd look at Kota. He'd calm down, and leaving Muscular just a warning. He's knocked out, bleeding on the floor. He's basically roadkill. Deku would leave him alone, as he'd sent a greater presence. Anyway. He'd drop Kota off of Mantle as he'd go off towards his greater presence. It seemed to be cancelling out his precognition. He couldn't feel what was going on, but he knew what he felt. He couldn't feel what was going on there, but he knew what he felt in his own body. Fear. He felt fear approaching this thing. As he'd walk, he'd feel Radial Sarge Quark getting closer and closer to him, along with another massive Quark. He couldn't tell what it was. He thought it was multiple people jumping ragdoll. When he got there, he just saw one man, white hair, a hand on his face. A red kill around his hip and red shoes. You caught me just in time, Midoriya. Ready to fight? Shigaraki's eyes would glow rainbow with Ragdoll's stolen Quark as Deku would steal Ragdoll's body about to turn to dust. Seeing this, Deku's fear would increase. What the hell? What did you do to Ragdoll? Oh, you'll be joining her very soon, Shigaraki would say as he charged up a blast, impure beam, plus razor blade, plus blood booster times 3, plus telekinesis. He said he shoot a yellow and black energy blast at Deku. He'd barely be able to deflect it with his own telekinetic barrier. Deku would breathe heavy. Feeling nothing but shit fear for Shigaraki. He couldn't move. He couldn't think. He couldn't see. He couldn't see straight. All he'd see was that hand-covered face. He couldn't make jokes. He couldn't make light of the situation. Shigaraki would hammer away at Deku's barriers. Is this all you got? Where was that spunk? Where was that rage you had in the USJ? Deku couldn't have that. Deku didn't have that right now. All he had was fear. Deku would see as his barrier got cracked by Shigaraki's hand. He was about to die. Aye, but Deku would remember. He'd think of All Might. What he once heard All Might say during the lesson. All Might's terrified. He's always scared, but he puts on that smile at the front. Deku would remember. Deku would remember something. His powers are enhanced by emotions. He remember back to his fight with Muscular just now in the USJ. His powers got enhanced by his negative emotions. But right now, fear is just that, a negative emotion. Deku would channel his fear into courage. He started pushing back against Shigaraki. He'd grab Shigaraki's palm, teleporting him into a mountain, slamming his face into it, before teleporting into a car, slamming his face into it again, before teleporting into the sky and dropping Shigaraki. Doing Shigaraki like that teleporter did Teru in that one fight. He'd let Shigaraki hit the ground before hitting him with a pile driver. With a double-leg pile driver, just straight clock into Shigaraki's chest. He'd make a ball of electricity in his hand before shoving it into Shigaraki, who would laugh. You will take more than that to stop my heart. You'll have to eradicate every cell in my body, he'd say. Shigaraki would say as his hole in his chest would regenerate, all his injuries smoking as they would disappear. He'd punch Deku across the city. Before chasing him down, hitting him with a quick elbow as Deku would barely manage to soften his fall to the ground with telekinesis. They'd fight across cities, hitting him trouble with straight combos. Deku would be flying at Shigaraki. They'd fight for 3 hours straight before Deku would have to put it all in one last gambit. He'd channel all his psychic energy into one big blast like he did with Todoroki. This one is bigger. He'd gather all the energy in the immediate area like he did when he was training, absorbing all the energy to refill his tank. He wasn't refilling anything. He wasn't refilling his tank. He was fueling his one last attack. He would shoot this large energy blast at Shigaraki. Blowing his head, his body, every part of him smooth off, reducing Shigaraki into nothingness. Deku would pass out. The heroes would find him later and take him to a hospital. He'd wake up and he'd see All Might looming over him. He would try to justify killing Shigaraki, but All Might would touch him. It's fine. And All Might would explain the all-for-one situation to Deku, how Shigaraki had somehow gotten his quirk, and how Deku had just killed the world's greatest villain. Deku, for his merit, is given a provisional hero license, and he goes for the next 2 years of UA normally. I'm gonna say Deku grows up to be the #1 hero due to the fact that he matches Mirio in bubbliness, and if he's way more handsome than Mirio, and he's a bit of a ladies' man, so his female fan base somewhat carries him. But still, yeah. If you made this far, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching my stuff, and next video is either going to be Saiyan Deku or Ninetales Deku. So thank you for watching my video. Bye bye.